Carla. Minister, we've known each other a long time, and I do understand the difficult position that you're in the new government, new minister, and dealing with this situation. But it is absolutely critical that this is dealt with in the appropriate way. I'm originally from the North Inner City, and we used to go to the Sean McDermott Street swimming baths. And across the road was a huge imposing building, which we never really knew much about except to drop our blankets in maybe every month or so. We didn't realise as a child going into that place where you put your clothes into the hatch to see that person behind that, who that person was or what that person's situation was. And it was only later on did we realise the absolute horror that went on behind the doors of the Magdalens and other institutions around the state. Never in our worst nightmares did we ever really think that something like that could happen. The legacy of these institutions is felt right across the state, and I would say right across the world, because so many of our people left this country because they couldn't live in a society that treated them so badly. I worked as a family support worker for many years, and I came across women who had been in institutions. And to be honest with you, sometimes when they were recounting the stories to me about their experiences, I often thought if I wrote it down and put it in a book, that it would go into the fiction end, because it was so horrific that nobody really would believe it. And those women suffered long-lasting, and I would say lifetime trauma from what they experienced in the institutions. And I think there's something that we miss in all of this, is that this didn't happen in isolation. This didn't happen because one section of the state or one section of society suddenly decided to do these things. This was institutionalized from the state. This could not have been done without the guards. It could not have been done without the judiciary. And it could not have been done without politicians. And without all of those institutions backing that up every step of the way. Because there were times when I spoke to those women and they said to me that they felt they had absolutely nobody to talk to, nobody to trust, and nobody that they felt would listen to them, because they felt and believed, and I believe was the truth, that the state was complicit. The entirety of the state was complicit in all of this. My wife, Angela, is adopted, and she spent 25 years battling the state, trying to get information about her birth mother. And every step of the way, every disappointment, every blockage is damaging to that individual. It's damaging to that person. Because what they want to know is who they are. Where did they come from? And something as simple as when you have a child, when you have children, and you say, well, is there anything in our background? I know mine. I can trace all of mine. But there was nothing that she could trace at that time in terms of the health implications. Was there something that was in her line, that she didn't know about? And that, you know, as a mother, that's very, very difficult to deal with. And as I said, every step of the way, it was her information. And yet, she felt as if she was getting a state secret from somebody else about somebody else. And I think that is completely wrong. And I just, when I read the information here from the Clan Project, it just struck at me. It absolutely struck at me. Of all of the experiences, and I can read them out here, but I won't, because people have already you know, they've already, so emotionally, I've been watching this for hours. I've been glued to it for hours because it is such an important story in the history of this state. And I think that's why it is so important that we get this right, that we ensure that the voices of all of these women, of the children, of their experiences, that we don't make a single mistake. And I think if we're at this stage where so many people are standing in here and so many people are watching this for hours and hours and hours on end, are thinking, this doesn't sit with me. This is not right. The thousands of people who emailed us are saying, this is just not right. Then it's really incumbent on us all, and particularly incumbent on the people in the government, on your side, to really sit down and say, do we make this mistake? Do we go through a vote? Do we get everybody to troll through the convention centre tomorrow and vote on this when we potentially could be making such a serious mistake? And I'm really, really pleading, and it's really difficult. And I can only think of imagine the people who are watching this tonight, whose these stories are, and how they're feeling, and the emotions and the re-trauma that they're experiencing. And I can only ask you to really sit down, to think about this over the next few hours, to look at what people are asking you to do, and to make a different choice that you are intending to make. And all I can say from the bottom of my heart is how you read this and how you make your decisions over the next couple of hours and over the next day or so, you know, that's going to have such a long-term impact on thousands and thousands of people. This is slot.